All right, welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your master of media mayhem or maniacal media. Take your pick. It is Wednesday. That is now what will now be referred to as Media Review Day because it's more than books, magazines, videos, toys, anything like that. Toys are kind of media, I suppose. But today we're going to be reviewing America's only rock and roll magazine, CREEM. We're going to be reviewing this first issue that I bought from September of 1981, probably on sale. Well, I took it to West Virginia in 1982. That can't be right. Must have had a different issue. I bought it because we'll get into that, but you can probably guess why I bought it. But I'm glad I did because it really and opened my eyes, and I really wish I'd have paid a lot more attention rather than just to the articles, but to the articles about the music, but other things, as we'll see. So, before we get too much further into it, before I jibber jabber even further, please like, share, subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the. Did you read CREEM magazine? Did you read other music magazines like Hit Parader or I guess later on Spin? Oh, and of course Rolling Stone. You want to find your picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Buy 5 copies for your mother. The Rolling Stone. I read all of them, but this was my favorite. I mean, and it's still being published in a quarterly, and in about a month, I'm going to subscribe to it. But having said all that, are you ready? Let's rock and roll. A little bit of live action here. This is my copy of it. This is my second copy because mysteriously my first one disappeared at some point in time. I had several years worth of issues and I decided I wouldn't need them or I didn't want them. I don't know why now, but you can if you sign up for CREEM online, you can access all of their issues, back issues like this online, and I really want to do that because there is one picture I really want. We'll talk about it, but it does involve the Beaver from Leave It to Beaver and his brother Wally. So I'm not taking it out because the cover is not attached to the back anymore, and it is 44 years old, almost 45 years old. Probably should have waited till next year to do a 45th anniversary, but there it is. It's really there, and you can see it bagged and boarded. But this is the first time I've had it out, but I'm afraid to read it just like this anymore. But if you go to creem.com, I think it's creem.com, but you look at it, you can find it. You'll be able to look at more pictures than what I just have here. All right, there you go. So let's roll into the rest of it. Because we've got to get Godzilla in there no matter what, right? Anyway, I'm going to adapt that a little bit again. I do like it a lot. But so, having said all that, there's my copy again. As you can tell, there's really a lot of interesting stuff in here. I had no idea what I was prepared for. I had seen the Plasmatics on Fridays in, gosh, that would have been 1981. Yes. So March of 1981 on a VHS cassette with a top loader VCR. Oh man. Oh man, those are something else. So I had to find out more about the band. And in purchasing this, I found out a lot more about the whole music industry. And I still wish I'd have written to these people. I did write to CREEM a couple times, but I was never witty enough. I did not know what I was about to get into, although I should have known by what they said here. The more, So let's get into that. So here's if you can see how it's not attached there. So I did not know who Mickey Moody was or who Whitesnake were, or still are, or what a washboard. I didn't know guitars. I just know they look cool and I wanted to play one. which I wouldn't do for a couple more years. But once again, rip off. Subscribe to Cream and get one, two, or three of these LPs. Is that Steve Perry's? I thought. Oh, it's Joe Perry, his first solo LP from leaving. What's that band? Aerosmith. None of these I would have wanted. Not a one of them. But they sure offered. I wish I'd have subscribed anyway. So here's our table of contents. And once again, this was a very interesting thing to find out about the Clash. And they were still about 2 years away from hitting it big. Yeah, I'd say 82, a year away from hitting it big. A little over a year. I don't know who Robert Gordon is, but Wendy and the Plasmatics, 1984 will be a little early. And a little late, but I just had no idea what I was about to see or read because while the articles were written pretty straight, the captions were not. They took rock and roll seriously, but they also liked to have fun. This, of course, was the best part of the whole magazine was always the letter section because they were such smartasses. And I just can't. And there was a lot of adult language in here, far more than I was ever used to. Comic books did not have stuff like this in it. I mean, it was, not R-rated, but definitely what would later become PG-13. I would have been 16 at the time. Yeah. So there's your list. I mean, and I didn't even put all of them in there. So it just, Rick Johnson here got bagged on a lot. And he wasn't like, people like to bag on him because he disagreed with them. He was like the heel commentator or the heel reviewer, the Eddie Elner of Cream magazine, if you will. So Chris Gow is very famous, still very famous. I don't often agree with him, but I just like to look at how young Mick was and still, yeah. The King Kong compilation. I'd like to read all this again, and I can't. So I know who Gang of Four is. Didn't know then. I think I knew who the Grateful Dead were, but most of these, most of these I wouldn't know. Public Image Limited, didn't know who they were. So this is called Rock and Roll News, but it was really much more like rock and roll gossip. It's where you find out about the drug abuse or drug use anyway, that artists were doing, and just what was in the news. Roy Thomas Baker, I think that's Gary Newman, right? Looks like Gary Newman to me, but I don't know. So, Bob Dylan, and then went on for 3 pages. There's some more, or 2 pages, and then just some reviews of band's most offensive record. Ray Manzarek, of the Doors, who also produced X first 4 albums, maybe at least 3. There's a little Bruce Springsteen guy. I wonder what happened to him. Meatloaf, jeez, all this stuff. They were so young, 1981. Public Image Limited, and then they would always have a flashback to 5 years ago. Now, Cream magazine itself was first published in March of 1969 in the Detroit area, and it ran from 1969 to 1989. Little did I know, in 1981, they only had 8 years left. They morphed in about 86 into a very glossy magazine, probably to try to keep up with Spin and what they turned into. I didn't like it as much. I quit buying it probably 86, 87. I don't know why. They were big boosters of Kiss in the 70s. By this time, the bloom had gone off the rose. But now they're back. Cream.com, and you can subscribe to their quarterly and get a newsletter, I think probably through your email, and there's all sorts of digital stuff. So independent records, once again, I wish they had addresses here. You could write to them and see what they had and get some of these. I could never figure this out. I just like this one right here. Circle Jerks, TS True Sounds of Liberty, never played out here in Fossil Bed. That was not gonna. I had to go to Rocky Mountain Records and Tapes in Boulder, Colorado at the Crossroads Mall. No, not Crossroads, at the Pearl Street Mall. That was my favorite one because it had stuff like this. So there's my first introduction to the Clash. Now I'd heard Train in Vain by now, but they had not quite gotten. They were still like again a year from combat rock, for good or for bad. Um, and then Crocus. I don't know anything about Crocus aside from they're from Sweden or Switzerland, pardon me. And at one point, Beavis and Butthead said in a video review of either them or Accept that when the zombies came out of the ground looking like Crocus, Night of the Living bands that suck. It was funny, mean but funny. And now we got the Ramones, which is not my introduction to the Ramones. Saw them on an episode of Sha Na Na. Had no idea what they were about, but I love them now, and as much as I love the Clash. I just like this ad for the Blue Oyster Cult. I think this is what Burnin' for You was released from. Also, veterans of the Psychic Wars from heavy metal, which we'll see in a bit. And there we go, Wendy and the Plasmatics. And this was Jean Bouvier there, West Beach, Stu. I'm drawing a blank, but and then Wendy, of course. And I don't remember who their drummer was. They went through drummers and bassists like Spinal Tap did. Well, drummers. Stu Deutsch, maybe. Richie Stotts, that's who that is. So these three were the main, along with, of course, Wendy's manager / husband. And they were the main there. But there's John Bouvier, who I saw in opening for the Eurythmics once and playing with Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul. So there's Wendy smashing it. So this is from Fridays, I believe. John Henry. Wendy's got some guns on her. And that's her courtroom. We're going to go into Plasmatics at some point in time. I do wish I still had Your Heart in Your Mouth, but I couldn't resist the offer, the monetary offer for it. They should release that. Oh, so this gentleman here that wrote this, Edward Dauphine, was also a filmmaker and reviewed his own movies. He had two identities and would review each other. So he wrote the book, Your Heart in Your Mouth, and then reviewed it as his other identity, saying it was great. Can't blame him for that. So, and there's her appearance on, I think that's, yes, Tom Snyder, after she'd been beat up by the police. Probably, yeah. So, and there's Wes and Richie. You can follow Richie on Facebook. So, Springsteen, a real American hero, a real British hero. So, I guess so. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know that I've ever heard any of his music. But he played rockabilly 2 years before the Stray Cats got to be a big deal. Well, a year and a half, maybe. They always had a calendar. There's Tom Petty. And I don't know if you can read any of this. Labor Day. So I wish I'd have paid more attention to this as well. But, and he's gone. Wendy's gone. Adam is able to dance in circles. So they always had a Cream Dream pinup, men and women. And here's their film news. They would veer off when professional wrestling started in '85. They actually got into a wrestling column at some point in time because that was a thing. Even Fangoria did it. So it wasn't just them, but Superman 3 is in the works. Britt Eklund. So this was always interesting. I'd like to read more. Again, I wish I would have saved all of mine. Pat Benatar, they always had a rock star with car. It looks like, is that a pink Cadillac? Maybe. I don't know, but we'll see Pat also a little later on. And there's a Journey article. I did like this. Billy Squier is very good, much better than his new album is. He will prosper until he wears a pink shirt in a video. And then he was out. Sorry, Billy. You deserve better, way better. Most of this I don't care about. Once again, they're trying to give you 3 bonuses, depending on how many. 24 issues, the deal I want, and the 3 bonuses. I think Cream Heavy Metal, none of this appeals to me that much except for the photos. But we were still a year away from the new music, the British invasion. But we must not think bad thoughts about 1981. We did get the Plasmatics and the Clash and the Ramones all in this issue. So here are your These are the old TV sets and stereo phones and a music box, but no Walkman yet. So, holy, I mean, why? Oh, a tiny TV that you could port about and try to get a picture off of, which now is called an iPhone or Android. Here's a review of Fridays, which lasted a whopping 2 years, but which did give us a lot of great music. Not a lot of great comedy, but they tried. But they were such an obvious Saturday Night Live ripoff. But boy, howdy, they had some great music. So there's Van Halen, Fair Warning. I want to say that's their third one. AC/DC's Dirty Deeds, which was released in '77 in Australia, but 70 and '81 once Back in Black was huge. So there's a review of these. P. Furs, The Cramps, which I wish I'd have paid attention to. I mean, I do know the Psychedelic Furs I'd heard of because they were starting to play some of the new music. George Harrison, but look, Holly and the Italians. I bought her album off this review, and still a great album. This first one. I had the second one somewhere, but not the LP. Charles had the LP. Kraftwerk, I still like. Kid Creole and the Coconuts. I'm trying to remember any of their songs. I don't know who Nick Mason was. Let's click over. Roger Taylor, the drummer of Queen, who can sing in his own right and was obviously a science fiction fan. Here, I wanted to know who this was. That's the Black Cat, although slightly stylized as to avoid copyright infringement, though she's in the public domain now. So the original Black Cat. 999 I found out about much later, which of course also is the British version of 911. I want to say they sing Homicide, but don't quote me on that. But they were a good band too. And a review of, for some reason, I don't know who reviewed this, but he included Boxcar Willie with the first two Plasmatics LPs. I really love New Hope for the Wretched. Beyond the Valley of 1984, I didn't get till 4 decades later. Can't believe it's been that long. Not quite. Let's say 3.5, which I like. It's got Master Plan on it and some other fun stuff. Wild Child Records. Look at that. White Punks on Slash X. And right there with the decline of Western civilization, the LP, which is not as good as the first XLP, I'll tell you what. But so they were talking about, just look at all. I wish I'd have written all these people. And you get back issues, at least till 80, just till a previous year in some of these. But I remember seeing this one. This was one they used a lot with Rob Halford on it. And then finally, we're backstage. The issue is 76 pages. This is always just where here's part of the Who to the newest member of the Plasmatics. I don't know. Tom Snyder. There's Adam and the Ants. I think he was still with the Ants. Elvis Costello and George Jones. And of course, I think that's Divine and not Meatloaf. This is what, they would call Stuart Copeland, say that he looked like Pluto. Mick Jones from The Clash looked like Jughead Jones. And they weren't wrong. There's Debbie with brunette hair. Ozzy Osbourne, gone. Joe's gone. Wendy, of course, is gone. I want to say John Entwistle's gone. Meatloaf is gone. That's not Meatloaf, but he's gone. So finally, on the inside back is the soundtrack to heavy metal, which has got one. Cheap Trick was on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Maybe it has 10 good songs on it. Riggs and Trust. Who ever heard of them? Nazareth was old hat by then, but I'd have to listen to it again, look at it again, and listen to it because I think I had the double LP. It was a double LP. And out of the 20 songs, I think there were like 10 really good ones. Really. And there is our back cover with Pat Benatar's new LP, Precious Time. I don't know. The new single Fire and Ice, yes. So that was, I think, her second one, maybe. I want to say her second one. I don't know. But that is our review for today of Cream magazine from 1981. It did not have a number on it, which I, as a comic book fan, I'm a little annoyed by, but I can live. Tomorrow we will be reviewing 4 episodes of Kikaida, Ginzo Ningen Kikaida. And if you've been with me this far, thank you. Until our next assignment, my fellow agents, this is X7 signing off, phasing out, and don't touch that dial.
We'll be right back for another exciting adventure with Superman.